After a 20-year delay, the giant seawall mega project has entered the groundbreaking stage.
Indonesia revives a multi-billion-dollar plan for a huge seawall to combat the terrifyingly sinking capital, Jakarta. With some parts of the city sinking up to 25 centimeters per year and disappearing land year after year, it seems like the urgent seawall is the last shot to save the city. Project will cost the government $60 billion and hopefully alleviate the persistent issue by 2040. Even though it sounds promising, you need to keep in mind that the plans for the seawall are not new at all. Already in 2010, Indonesia announced this project to the world. 24 years have passed, and not only has the project been dropped multiple times, but the problem has become more disturbing and dangerous than ever before. It was so bad that the government decided to move the capital to the island of Borneo, where the new capital, Nusantara, would be built. That is why we may be all wondering if they can save Jakarta and win that battle against the clock. Because if they fail, Jakarta will disappear from the world's map forever before they manage to build and move the inhabitants to the new capital. So how do they plan to do it? And will they finally be able to accomplish this before it's too late? Welcome to Legendary Builds, I'm Maciek. Now let's find out. For those unfamiliar with the situation, Jakarta's land is disappearing at an alarming rate. Some areas sink as much as 25 centimeters a year. This dramatic subsidence has two main reasons: excessive groundwater extraction that weakens the soil, and unchecked urban development sealing the ground, preventing natural replenishment. But what are they doing to resolve the issues? The proposed Garuda project aims to be a comprehensive defense system, a great wall against the rising sea. Plans of the project include a 120-kilometer-long dike around Jakarta's coastline by 2030, the seawalls on the city's flanks by 2040, and finally a reservoir by 2050. It's an ambitious vision, but will it be enough? Jakarta's plight is particularly concerning because of the sheer rate of subsidence. Experts estimate that the city has sunk by a staggering 4 meters since 1970. That's like burying a 2-story house whole. Imagine the devastation. Entire neighborhoods underwater, infrastructure crumbling. So, why is this happening? If you're curious about why Jakarta is sinking faster than any other major city, the reasons are quite simple. Firstly, Jakarta boasts an abundance of towering buildings, claiming the title of having the most shopping malls globally and ranking 12th for skyscraper count. These tall structures exert immense pressure on the underlying soil. Secondly, water scarcity in the area has spurred extensive groundwater extraction, further destabilizing the terrain. For decades, thousands, perhaps millions of deep wells have been dug in search of water, exacerbating the issue. On top of that, Jakarta's location on the northwest coast of the Java Sea means it contends with the rising water levels, with reports indicating an annual increase of up to 200 centimeters. As a result, the city faces recurrent flooding and tsunamis, resulting in significant economic losses, estimated at 133 million per year, with projections reaching 637 million in the future. The situation is dire, with experts warning that a third of the capital could be submerged by 2050 if left unaddressed. Disturbingly, between 1997 and 2005, parts of Jakarta sank over 4 meters into the sea. Urgent action is imperative to safeguard the city's more than 10 million inhabitants from uncertain fate, and that is why the government has come up with a creative plan. As the government ponders over the seawall project, it's also shifting the national capital from Jakarta to the lush jungle of East Kalimantan in Borneo Island. But the seawall project has its grace and can solve the issue. Let's see what the project is all about. The Garuda seawall is set to stretch 25 miles long and rise to 80 feet in height. Positioned on the northern bay of Jakarta, these colossal barriers will be strategically erected on the east and west sides to entice private investors. Transforming the surface into a hub of urban development, this expensive seawall will encompass various social amenities, which win approximately 4,000 hectares. These amenities include an airport, harbor, toll road, residential and industrial areas, waste treatment facilities, water reservoirs, and green spaces. Plus 17 artificial islands are planned, expected to accommodate a new segment of Jakarta's population, totaling around 2 million residents. A target date of 2040 has been set for the seawall's completion at both ends. The construction of a 30-kilometer-long river and beach dike on the coast of Jakarta is in progress. By 2050, the entire project will include the creation of freshwater reservoir between Garuda's walls. This reservoir aims to tackle Jakarta's water supply issues, which heavily rely on groundwater extraction. Inside of the dike, a freshwater reservoir will be built to storage rainwater and river water from Jakarta's 13 rivers, providing clean water for its residents. With these plans in motion, the pressing question now is how the Indonesian government intends to secure the 10.5 billion needed to fund this colossal endeavor. Wisely, they have turned to private partnerships, recognizing that they cannot shoulder the financial burden alone. But the proposal has some deadlocks and criticism. Critics have echoed similar concerns about the Garuda seawall, warning that its hefty 10.5 billion price tag could be a band-aid solution. They urge the government to consider a more holistic approach, one that tackles the root causes of Jakarta's trouble. Imagine spending that much on a single wall. Wouldn't it be better to invest in long-term solutions, like sustainable water management and urban planning? People first talked about the idea of building a huge seawall in Jakarta in 2010, but environmental groups and local politicians were against it, because they thought it would hurt sea life and make it harder for people to make a living. The land sinking along the north coast is thought to be caused by uncontrolled groundwater extraction, which is caused by a lack of clean water and a high demand for growth. The north coast soil is also being pushed down by the steady movement of heavy vehicles and logistics trucks. Fixing up the Jakarta coastal area and growing mangroves could be a better way to protect people from flooding and drowning. It is also better for the environment. This method saves money and is easier to put into action. While the Garuda giant seawall project has faced significant criticism, particularly from skeptical Indonesians, it represents a significant stride forward. The government cannot afford to idly watch Jakarta sink, and if a seawall can offer assistance, it's worth considering. What are your thoughts on this project? Leave your opinion in the comments below. If you found this video informative, remember to like, share and subscribe to our channel. You've been watching Legendary Builds, and until the next one.